If it feels this way to you, but it sure feels to me like we have been on a pretty bad run in baseball. I'd say for the last 5 years, it feels like every other week we lose some sort of legendary figure, somebody who played a titanic role in the history of baseball. I wrote down just a few of the names of players that we've lost and people that we've lost since 2020. I mean, Willie Mays and Henry Aaron, Pete Rose, Phil Niekro, Tim McCarver, Tom Seaver, Gaylord Perry, Tommy Lasorda, Don Sutton, Dick Allen, Whitey Ford, Lou Brock, Al Kaline, Joe Morgan, and the list goes on and on. It really does feel like it happens all the time, and we just are losing a generation and then another generation. And I guess maybe that's just part of growing older, but we really lost somebody today that was just so meaningful and so important to all of us who love the game, to the game itself. Today, Bob Uecker passed away at age 90, and there just wasn't anybody like him. There just wasn't another player, person in the history of the game who exuded what baseball is all about, and the laughter and the joy of the game, the way that Uke did. And everybody who ever came across him, anybody who ever met him, anybody who ever just saw him in the press box, felt better for it. I mean, he was an incredibly special guy, beloved in so many ways, and I think the funniest, not just baseball player in American history, but I think the funniest athlete in American history. I mean, he's called Mr. Baseball because Johnny Carson gave him that name. I mean, that to me is unlike anything else. And of course, he was most famous for the way that he would make fun of his own career. I wrote down a few of them just because they're so perfect. He would talk about that he was such a bad hitter. He was a career 200 hitter. He was such a bad hitter. He would look to the base coach for signs, and the coach would turn his back on him. He said that he had a great shoe and glove contract because companies would pay him a lot of money never to be seen using their stuff, which I think is his 1965 baseball card. He said came out without a picture. Said his top salary was $17,000 and 11 of that came from selling players' equipment. Said he knew he was getting released in 1967 from the Braves when the manager, Luman Harris, walked up to him and told him no visitors allowed. I mean, that was the funny, incredibly funny part of who Bob Uecker was. But there's another side of that. And the side is that nobody loved baseball more than he did. Absolutely nobody loved the game more than Bob Uecker. He lived it in ways that he didn't even cover it up, when talking about his own career. But this is a guy who was Dick Allen's best friend. When he got traded in 1964, Dick Allen was a rookie having his incredible rookie season, and Dick Allen broke down in tears because they traded Bob Uecker. He was Bob Gibson's best friend. There's the very famous photo of Bob Uecker and Bob Gibson holding hands, and they had to retake the team photo because they were holding hands like they were a couple. He was Phil Niekro's best friend. Phil Niekro threw knuckleballs, and Bob Uecker set the record for most passed balls by a catcher, and yet he was Phil Niekro's best friend because he told Phil Niekro, "You keep throwing them. I don't care how many I miss." I mean, there was a depth to him that he was both the funniest, but also the I think he had the biggest heart in the world, and we're going to miss him a lot, and it feels like a real loss, not just for the game and not just for us as fans, but for a generation that just won't grow up listening to the stories, and so I guess it's our job to sort of keep that going. So rest in peace, Bob Uecker.